We have a saying around here.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, no brains, no headache.
Well, hello, boys.
What's up? What's up?
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Welcome to No Brains, No Headache Podcast, episode 230, which will inevitably be the final episode of 2024. So just want to say thank you so much for being with us this year. Wishing you all the happy holidays, happy new year ahead as we quest into our last episode here in this fine calendar year. Matt Cleary, co-host, confidant, longtime friend, fellow comedian, he is going to be alongside me today. I call him Mongo. You call him whatever you like. Name's Jordan Weichel, host. As always, happy to be here. Damn glad to do it for yet another episode. Matt, welcome back to the show. We're on a short turnaround, but we're here doing it, getting it done.
If I would have told you in May of 2020 that we would still be doing the podcast, what would you have said?
We are still doing the podcast? What are you thinking? It's the same response every time we hit a little bit of a milestone, wrap up another year. It's always like, I can't believe those guys are still doing that thing. They're still yelling into a microphone absurdities that could very easily get them fired from some sort of professional position in the future. We don't like security. At least I don't. So we're going to take a risk by talking into a microphone weekly for 60 to 90 minutes. And it's all for the loyal listeners out there. Thanks to everybody watching on YouTube. That seems to be the place to go. So that's what I would say. What would you say, Matt, if May of 2020, a little over 4 years ago, almost 4.5, let's say, I said, hey, we're 230 episodes in. We're about to wrap up the year 2024, head into Christmas break strong.
I would assume that one of us was like dead.
This is a tribute podcast. Like, that's what he would have wanted. So I'm going to keep doing it. And you're
A lot
just
has happened.
sobbing and drinking whiskey for like 60 minutes.
A lot has happened like since we started the podcast. Like I bought a house. I got my first pube.
Yeah. It's huge.
Those are basically the two milestones that I've gone through in the last 5 years.
You're a traveling comedian in the tri-state area.
We are the only ones that I know of that went podcast first, then comedy.
You know what? We like to do things a little bit untraditional here in No Brains, No Headache Land. That's just our brand, and that's what we do. So you either get on board or get the freak out. You know what I mean? But we got a good one, Matt. Should we jump into it? We don't have a whole lot of housekeeping. Like I said, we are headed into the holidays, so it's time for a little bit of break. But before that, boy, do we have a good one for you.
No Brains, No Headache Podcast.
Okay. Let's party.
Lots of childhood drinks that we had, Matt, growing up. It's come full circle. Now that we're adults, we're of legal drinking age. Now all these drinks have started making alcoholic versions of them. Have you tried any of these that I'm referring to? I have a few examples here.
I'm the one that I'm thinking of that I tried a sip of, and it didn't completely suck, but I feel like it needs a lot of ice, and you can't drink more than two of them. It was Sunny D.
Okay, yes, that is one of my examples. I'm a huge Sunny D, just flat-out virgin orange juice mixer, as you can call it. Big fan of that, and terrible for you.
Oh,
I mean, it's just loaded with sugar.
I used to think that, like, Sunny D and orange juice were the same things, that I thought Sunny D was like a brand of orange juice. I'm like, it's just better than orange juice. Turns out it's not orange juice. It's just orange.
Yeah, or you'd be at a nice place, maybe for breakfast or brunch, and they're like, oh, we have fresh squeezed orange juice, and you taste it, and you spit it out, and you're like, this isn't Sunny D.
Orange juice is good for one thing, and that is disguising the taste of alcohol.
Yes, I remember at the Wee Fest years ago, it would be a common drink to make throughout the day because, you know, you're trying to stay with the best of the best. You're trying not to poison yourself, however, be numb enough to just have a great time. Release your inhibitions is the goal. And to do that, I would take a large mug. I would maybe throw some ice in there. I would throw some sort of flavored vodka in there. I would pour a beer in there, and we're topping it off with OJ. And really, it just tasted like a fruity, foamy OJ drink. And you could just do that. And I mean, you pound that down, depending on how much vodka you throw in there, that you could have 3 drinks in one, essentially. Do the old 3 for 1, which is really economical and effective at the same time. So that's really nice. OJ, you're exactly right. Nails it. It's really great for disguising. That's why they call it, some people mistake it as mixer.
Yeah.
Just straight up mixer. But Sunny D, I haven't tried it yet, and I've said it before on the pod, and I'll say it again, I'm not really big on trying or mixing alcohol with, drinks that I like. Maybe with the exception of like a Sprite or a Coca-Cola, perhaps. That's where I'll teeter the line. However, Sunny D, I haven't tried one yet. I don't know if I ever will. It's just a tough one that I don't want to ruin. Mountain Dew as well.
Oh my God.
You and I, we've been on the diet soda kick for a while now, and we were for a minute there. We had a bit of a phase. It would be the the Mountain Dew Zero Sugar Baja Blast.
I tried this one chili and it set my mouth on fire, and I had to drink a 2-liter of Mountain Dew.
Nowadays, they have come out with multiple flavors. There's a 12-pack you can get, and there's 4 different flavors. And I haven't tried them personally. Once again, I haven't really tried any on the list that I have compiled here. But I have asked people. They said they're good. I don't know if I can risk it, Matt.
I'm going to assume it's similar to, this came out like 10 years ago. It's called Mountain Ale. And it's like kind of like the Not Your Father's root beer, essentially. And that was really good. But I remember like finding out about it, drinking like a 6-pack of it, and then you just have gut rot.
And that's just it too with these drinks. It seems like you have a few of them, and I personally, if I am going to drink a soda pop, I'm going to try my best to limit myself to 1. I'm only human, so that doesn't always happen. But the same principle goes for these drinks that'll make you feel that way as is. Now we're adding grain alcohol to them. And with the Mountain Dew one, I don't even know, with the Sunny D, do you know what kind of, is it vodka?
I'm assuming it's a vodka.
See, with these things, they don't even specify what kind of, alcoholic liquid they have in there.
It's like for legal reasons, they can't even like call it like a certain alcohol.
Yeah.
Kind of like Velveeta's like cheese product. It's not cheese.
It is a hunk of lard with food coloring that is delicious. So I don't know what they put in there, but boy.
Let me tell you, if you have a crock pot, some canned chili, and some Velveeta, do yourself a favor.
Plug it in the bathroom. Save yourself some time running back and forth.
And just get a big old bag of Tostitos scoops and sit on the toilet as you just
expedite the process. We're all about time management here on No Brains, No Headache. But the Mountain Dew, I don't know if I can get behind it. Obviously, they have like a normal flavor, a Baja Blast, a couple other fruit flavors, you could say. And I haven't tried it yet, but I noticed they recently came out with that. At least it got to the Bismarck area. We are a bit behind, it seems, the rest of the country and the world for that matter. However, those are available in our area now. And I once again, maybe if somebody offers me one for free, I'll gladly try it. I don't know though. That's a line I don't want to cross. You got these good drinks like Diet Dr. Pepper, for example. Okay, this isn't an advertisement. I'm just saying it's a delicious, refreshing drink. And one of us, come mid-January, is going to have to drink 15 of them. Who's it going to be?
In 24 hours.
Who's it going to be? We don't know. We have no idea, but I'm excited to find out who it is. We also have Welch's Grape Juice. They recently came out with I don't know if it's a wine, if it's just a ready-to-drink out of the can. I got a sample of it. I didn't really see what kind of container it came in. But Welch's Grape Juice now has an alcoholic drink. I sampled that one, and honestly, it just tastes like the grape juice. A very, very subliminal, slight hint of the alcohol, but you can barely taste the alcohol. It tastes like something that your very German, stubborn grandma would make for you at holidays when you're underage. You're about 14, 15, and grandma's like, you want some Mogan David with a couple ice cubes and Sprite? And it's like, Grandma, you could pour some used motor oil in a cup and say it's booze, and I'd probably drink it. You know what I mean?
Rubbing alcohol with a bunch of Sunny D.
Yeah, but I think this is a dangerous game to play by Welch's grape juice. I mean, that gets into the wrong hands, and because you can't even tell. You know, maybe if a kid gets it and you can actually taste the alcohol, it's like, oh, that's gross, that burns. The Welch's grape juice does not. And you imagine yakking up that stuff, you're in purple stains forever.
Yeah, that's the always tough part when I feel like everyone in their lifetime has either had a bad experience with UV blue or hot damn.
I'm exactly a victim myself. UV blue had a rough one.
Yeah.
It's essentially, I don't know, like you drink a whole thing of food coloring.
Yeah.
Blue.
That's kind of what you sound like too when you're just exacerbating your freaking guts into a street.
Oh man. Yeah, I had a real doozy one time. I had to take it to the car wash and get the chunks off the side. It was brutal.
Speaking of that, speaking of vomiting, there was one time that we were heading to an Indian casino. There was 4 of us guys, and we drive the entire way. And there's one guy who will not be named drinking a liter of peppermint schnapps in the backseat. It's about a 4-hour drive.
Oh my! I already have a tummy. My tum has the rums already. He
drinks the entire liter of peppermint schnapps by the time we get there, and it's dark out when we get there. And I go in.
Disgusting.
Yeah, we pull up to the hotel. I get out to go check in. I come out, the car's gone. And I'm like, and then I like see it over in the corner, and I was like, "Hey, why'd you guys move the car?" It's like, he got out and threw up all over, and I look back and there's just a pile of vomit. and then he went inside, and we're watching him. That you have to go up to the second floor and walk over this like archway to like where the rooms are, and we're watching him through the glass, and he's just like wandering around on the first floor, so you physically can't get to the rooms. And it was like 15 minutes of us just watching. Like, is anyone gonna go get him? Like, no.
You drink a whole liter of peppermint schnapps in the back seat by yourself. It's best. You're on a journey. You're on a quest that it's best to just do solo. And then, you can be there to guide and keep an eye from a distance, but you just got to let them blossom.
And then he lost like $700, like within 2 hours of us getting there. And the next morning, he's just disheveled, like hungover, no money left. And he's sitting up in bed, and there's like a mirror across the room, and he's just his head's like in the mirror, and he's just staring at himself. And we're all like, "What is he doing?" And then he's like, "You did this."
Like the Green Goblin from Spider-Man, just having a whole interpersonal monologue.
That's what it was. It was so funny.
There's good and there's evil, and sometimes the line gets blurred. There's reality and there's not. Sometimes the line gets blurred. Yeah. Drinking a whole liter of peppermint schnapps will probably blur that line pretty easily for you. So kudos to him. Plenty of drinks going around. What do you guys think of him? Moving on, episode 230.
I've come to the conclusion with that CEO getting just mollywopped in the streets of New York, that it is impossible to commit a crime and get away with it nowadays.
It is, and that's probably a thanks a lot to our, law enforcement and the several agencies that, dedicate their time to that.
I mean, there's cameras everywhere. Everyone has a phone that pings to a tower that's probably recording you at any moment. And then even like the advances in DNA, there was this, I think it was a 22-year-old girl, sent her DNA into 23andMe, got it back, and then a cold case from like the 70s that like flagged it, and her grandma got arrested for murder.
Well, did she do it?
Yes. Like they had the DNA, but they had nothing to test it against. And 30 years later, her granddaughter submits a DNA test, and then
is a 23andMe I never thought of it, but is it like a deep state, like a thing where they're going to clone you in the future?
I never thought about it like that, but
me neither until somebody said that.
Yeah,
then I was thinking.
Now that's all I'm going to think about.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
At least it gets your mind off the thing I mentioned right before we started recording. So.
Oh, sweet chili wings.
Yes. Oh. Yeah, that's exactly what I mentioned.
What if I sent in sweet chili wings to 23andMe?
I think that we should just, let's send in the DNA. Let's get the chicken DNA. Let's see where this chicken's from. And the sweet chili, I want to source that because I want to buy a lot of it.
There was a guy that like scientifically made chicken without like killing a chicken.
That's not chicken.
Well, it's like had the same genetic makeup of chicken. And he's like, yeah, but now we don't have to kill a chicken. And they're like, how much is that one chicken nugget? He's like, $600.
Doesn't seem all that feasible, but, to each their own. If you want to eat a $600 nugget, that's your choice.
I was thinking, what if instead of like spitting in a tube, if you just had to send in a vial of semen?
Been there, Let's just say the tide to go, Ben. It might, I won't work on the Welch's grape juice that I puke all over myself. It also doesn't work on semen.
Have you ever played with a black light in your room?
I quit doing that years ago.
Yeah, it is wild.
Yeah, because when I did, my mouth just lit up like the 4th of July, and I was like, oh, this is awkward.
There's cum everywhere.
It's actually my golden birthday at the end of the month, so if you guys want to wish me happy birthday, go right ahead. And
happy birthday.
Thank you. And I misunderstood what golden birthdays are. Thought I was going to get pissed on.
I mean...
Still can.
Yeah, I mean, it's that.
I'm keeping that open.
That's up to you.
I thought it was like golden shower, golden birthday.
That would have been really weird because my golden birthday was when I was 5.
And that's what I thought was funky. I was like, wait a minute, kids are getting pissed on? This is weird.
Why is Michael Jackson at Matt's 5th birthday?
There's no jellyfish sting and they're still pissed on him? This just seems a little weird.
I had a joke that I just kind of shelved because I'm bad at comedy, but it was the first person to figure out that peeing on someone if they get stung by a jellyfish works had to totally just be fucking with that person.
I have no idea. Is this actually a thing? I think it is.
Yeah.
Are you sure? Are we sure it's not a prank?
No, it's a legitimate thing.
I kind of want to like take you to the ocean and like hopes you get stung by a jellyfish just so I can whiz on you.
Honestly, I'd probably rather die.
Okay.
Just let me go.
That's not day bong. That's for my schlong. Yeah, the whole year into, cure a jellyfish sting. I can't see. Just saying it's like that's not that. Is that right?
It's one of those like you hate to be the first one to do it, but I'm glad someone did it.
Yeah,
like finding out milk. Someone was just jerking off a cow and then drank it.
Yeah, I mean. You like it past your eyes or up to your nipples? Yeah. The choice is yours. The choice is totally yours.
I'll fondue it with you.
Crime in this country is hard to accomplish these days, Matt says, on No Brains, No Headache.
I think there's certain things you can get away with, like minor but I'm saying misdemeanor level or higher is damn near impossible. Granted, everything I do that's fun is basically a misdemeanor or higher, but...
Yeah. Well, and there's just... the world of cameras and information technology that just moves so fast, even in a small, batch. Let's just look at it from at a micro level, breaking and entering into a home. 30 years ago, probably a bit easier. Now there's Ring doorbells and everywhere. There's security cameras everywhere.
And even if you don't have a Ring doorbell, it's like, oh, my neighbor had one across the street and he caught this guy. It's like, you can't steal your neighbor's newspaper anymore.
The murderer, Chad Isaac, actually, they were able to track him on his way back through like the North Dakota Highway or Department of Transportation cameras, and like, they timed it up.
Yeah, they had,
and those are everywhere. I don't know how you're going to get from A to B without traveling on.
Yeah, there was road. An ATM in Center, North Dakota that caught his truck.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, and it's like, that is so ridiculous.
Well, I think it started there, and then they looked at every camera in the vicinity, and...
That was my favorite thing about that whole trial. If you haven't looked it up, this chiropractor from Washburn, North Dakota, brutally murdered 4 people in Mandan.
And then went and adjusted people later that day. Blood on his hands. And, not actually, it's a metaphor, but you get it.
I mean... But the whole thing about it is the trial was like on court TV. It was like the the premium, like everyone's watching this around the country. And he claimed he was innocent, and the pile of evidence they had against him was like virtually impossible for this guy to be innocent. He was essentially the guy in Role Models, like saying his name, stealing TVs.
Yeah. I can't believe I'm here. Chad Isaac murdering people before my afternoon appointments. What am I thinking?
Well, fun fact, our Washburn office is on one side of the building and his chiropractic office is on the other.
Not anymore. Yeah, the crime is hard to pull off. Did you ever think about that maybe as a child of just like, how would you pull off the perfect crime? Even if it's just robbing a gas station. I always thought about drastically like growing out my hair and just making my face look like just a caveman essentially. And then immediately after just doing the, getting a haircut, tidying up, looking sharp. But I feel like also it takes to get away with a modern day crime, you really do have to have some sort of, I hate to say it, but mental illness. You need to have something going on upstairs that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to the rest of the society, because if you're really going to pull it off, Matt, I think where people get, and like the United Healthcare CEO assassin, the guy just went out and socialized. I'm just saying here, okay, this is just a saying, this is a hypothetical. If I were to murder somebody, especially of that stature in society, I don't know if I'm going to be going out a whole lot after that. Like, weren't we talking about this? I was like, why didn't homeboy go get some groceries to last him like a month or two?
Here's a wild idea.
And lay low.
You have an American passport and your family has a lot of money. You could literally go anywhere.
This is also true, but I think also if you're just trying to not even get to be a suspect, you know what I mean? If you're not even trying to get on the suspect list, I think the people who aren't true, serial killers, just psychos essentially, they just have a hard time of laying low. Isolation is tough. Even if you are a murderer or not, you still want to get out in the world and see things. The laying low part, I think, is where people go wrong. If homeboy would have laid low, he still would be out there, don't you think? I mean,
like the Menendez brothers, how they like just spent all sorts of money after killing their parents. And there's even some sports cards because they went and sat like courtside at a lot of NBA games.
Oh, really?
Like Mark Jackson, he's like a guard for the Knicks in the 80s or 90s. On one of his cards, the Menendez brothers are just sitting right there.
Is that one worth a lot?
You can't even buy it anymore. They took it off eBay. I think I might have one or two, but it's not worth a lot because they made so many.
So if you come and buy one in circulation, it's not like...
Yeah, it's
do you think it'd be more valuable than like the average market price? If it didn't have the Menendez brothers and it was like a $4 card, now that it does, is it worth just a little more?
The card was worth like 10 cents maybe, but then when they found out the Menendez brothers was in it, it went to like a $50 card.
It went to $1.
Like, and they even found like another, because people just don't look that close because they made so many of these cards. They were like cheap and people just threw them in a shoebox. They found one that like a Michael Jordan card that had the Menendez brothers in it too, and that one just shot up.
I was about to say that one's got to be worth a lot. Greatest basketball player in the planet, and two murderers
next
apparently.
to Bron.
I don't even know the I'm sorry. Let's say it together.
Melatonin brothers.
Menendez. Beautiful. Nailed it. I don't even know what that story. I mean, I kind of know from a bird's eye view, but I've never watched it or looked into it. Couldn't tell you. I know what you're talking about.
It's one of those that I've consumed so much true crime stuff, like through podcasts and like YouTube, like shorts and stuff like that, that any new one that comes out, I already know the story, so it's not like a huge deal. It's like,
it is nice to see other outlets and other kind of perspectives on it. Like I remember when the Fire Fest documentary came out, and there one on Netflix and one on Hulu, and it was fun just to kind of watch both of them and just see like what some missed and what others added.
Yeah, I mean, the guy is doing another Fire Fest, and there's tickets for $1 million.
We should sell. You know what we should do for our comedy show as a complete gimmick? One seat or like two seats in the whole place is like
20 grand.
Yeah, I was gonna say 100 grand, but yeah, just like you just come across that one person who's just
for 100 grand, and if you buy that,
Matt will blow you.
Yeah, I'll jerk you off during the show.
Matt's just switching arms.
Yeah, freaking popcorn's flying everywhere.
Yeah. Oh man, why does it always come to sexual favors?
On the Workaholics episode, when he's like, "How much for you to blow a dude?" and he's like, "I don't know, like $800." He's like, "What?" He's like, "I said $80,000." He's like, "No, you said 800." There's no door.
That's very true, but you have a great point. Crime is pretty impossible to commit these days. I think, maybe like smoking weed in a state where it's not legal is probably as hard as I want to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's like at that point you never hear like, "Oh man, the murderer's still out there." No, the murderer gets caught literally every single time now.
Yeah, they do a good job with that because murder's not good. People probably shouldn't do it. Last night at open mic, I did have to make that clear when I was joking about the United Healthcare CEO. I was like, for the record, murder, not good. Okay, we have decided that.
Well, I love how Alex, so the guy basically, everyone hates him because they deny claims, and Alex goes up there and he's like, yeah, so they took him for the autopsy. They took him into the hospital, and they're like, yeah, these 9mm gunshot wounds is a pre-existing condition. We can't treat you.
Yeah. Sorry, we can't help you out. That's just how it goes sometimes. It is very true though. At Cabin Day Weichel, the security system's going in soon. So I was checking it out with me padre, and you've been there. The slits of land aren't very wide. They're long and narrow. So actually, each neighbor, a few neighbors on each side, all have security cameras, and like at the end of the day, probably could get away without it. But it's just nice to have peace of mind on a piece of property.
Yeah, that's the modern day, like not having a fenced yard.
Well, try finding a place to take a leak around there, Matt. My dong is all over my neighbor's security camera.
Imagine if you had the security camera of me just projectile vomiting off your deck.
I think depending on what angle the camera is at, we could maybe. It was dark out though, so I don't know what the quality would be like. There's just me in the corner.
It's like your neighbor's camera, and you just see waves of vomit coming into the screen.
Was it raining that night? Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was raining chili vomit. Yeah, I made a crock pot full of chili. Hey, we're going back to the cabin in a few weeks, so time to redeem yourself. And it's going to be cold out, so it'll freeze this time. You can't just wash it off with the hose, so you can really leave your mark.
It's there till spring. Same guy that puked outside the casino. He used to puke in the middle of the street, and in the winter, he'd always have like red puke. Like I don't know what he was drinking all the time.
I probably should get that checked out,
but and it would be like just.
You should go through United Healthcare to get the coverage.
You'd just make a vibrant color, and then it would freeze, and it would be there for like weeks. There's just this dried vomit in the middle of the street.
Yeah, he's proud of his work.
Just spelt his name out in vomit.
That's not great. Usually if I get to the point of vomiting, it's like, okay, we need, like he did in the mirror in the hotel room. That's what I do to myself at my apartment. It's like, okay, we don't need to be, poisoning ourselves to the point of vomitation. Matt, I got quite a doozy for you. You can open it up. And
I was looking at it.
So what I would like to talk about here, I found this on Twitter. Thank you to the X Machine for providing some content. And I'm really not here to make fun of anybody. I'm just trying to understand. We have a guide to pride flags. Okay, and according to my calculation, there is 35 of them. And looks like there's more below that, but there's 35 pride flags. So Matt, take your pick, start where you want.
A couple thoughts here. My first thought is the original pride flag has pink on it. Mm-hmm. What did the pink stand for, and why did it get dropped?
My only answer I can come up with right now is that original pride flag with the pink at the top. That's a lot of colors on a small amount of area. So I want to say maybe they just looped it in, because it looks like they got rid of a blue as well. They just kind of combined the blues.
Yeah.
So that's my only thing, because it is a pretty busy flag, the OG Pride flag in San Francisco, apparently, to this guide to Pride flags. Thank you to Twitter for that. We have the LGBT Pride flag, which is just the modern day one. Philadelphia gets their own, which I think is pretty unfair.
That's because Eagles fans probably beat up gay people.
Is that what it is?
So hot
it says
pink,
inclusive variation. I don't know what that means.
hot pink was sexuality, is what it stood for.
Can't have that anymore.
And then the blues were magic or art and serenity.
We got the Progress Pride, which is a trans inclusive variation. Intersex inclusive pride, another variation here. Matt, we fall under this one, I believe. Straight ally, cisgender or hetero person who recognizes discrimination in LGBTQ community.
Let me.
What's the word for banging your dishwasher?
That flag is just a black flag. What out of all of these, what looks like it could be a legitimate national flag?
Okay, I think I was down here for this. So this one is just because it's a simple couple of colors.
That actually might be like the Nigerian flag.
The New Choice Pride, indifference or absence of gender, neutral gender.
Sometimes
white on top, green in the middle, black on the bottom.
That's kind of like me. Sometimes when it gets really cold, my dick goes inside me.
Then there's probably a flag here for that. Let's find it. What I do find interesting is you get to the bottom of this guide to pride flags, and we got rubber pride. It's for the people who have a rubber fetish. We have leather pride, which is the leather subculture. Duh. Where's the MILF pride? There's a BDSM rights. There's a drag pride. Where's the MILF pride?
The BDSM.
That's not fair. You're leaving the MILFs out.
The BDSM flag looks fucking awesome.
That one does look cool. It does look like maybe perhaps like a South Asian country. It's like a three-way yin and the yang, and the yang.
It's like a country that's made up between the middle parts of South and North Korea.
The intersex pride flag is just a yellow shade with a purple ring in it. It looks like a condom, and underneath it is rubber pride. So I thought that one was it.
Yep,
but it's actually on the the name is up top.
I wish that someone recreated this and then just put like the Canadian flag somewhere in it. If you go up, the one that I thought could be an actual country is the demisexual pride.
Okay, yeah, that one's got a black triangle off to the left side with white, purple, gray.
And if I'm gonna guess, it's like a small African country.
Sexual attraction only with a strong emotional bond. It just sounds like somebody who just like has feelings for everybody they bang, which is I think pretty normal. Maybe not. I don't know. Bisexual, sexual attraction to two or more or multiple genders. Excuse me. Got the lesbian pride. I mean, nothing new there. The gay men. I mentioned that one. Gender flux pride. One's gender changes over time. Okay,
it's like a transformer.
I guess so. I guess. What if they had like a country flux flag and it's just like a few different countries' flags? Like, some days we're Norway, some days we're Yugoslavia.
It's what if? Yeah, no, that was a dumb thought. The equal human rights flag, I think, is my favorite looking one.
I think it's good because it's simple, just a blue flag with an equal sign in yellow. So
that very much could be like the flag of a city in Sweden.
Yes. So which pride flag is yours? Maybe check it out. Thanks again to the Twitter machine for producing just a little talking point here.
It's a very visual.
I do like all the colors.
Yeah, it's a very visual, pleasing graphic. Yeah, and it's not. Honestly, I like figuring out like different what things are.
Yeah, it's just there's so many different ones. It does get confusing. And yeah, there's probably a couple of terms here that I'm not very familiar with. But hey, we're trying. We're trying here on NBNH to understand.
Like my autism brain.
I'm just saying the rubber Pride one should be the one that looks like a condom.
It should just be a pack of dong bags.
Yeah, and that's what it is essentially. But
I really want to get the BDSM like headband, and then like be a hibachi chef. Hey.
Yeah, I don't know. They should have one for like Thailand Ladyboy Pride flag.
Oh, there's definitely one out there.
I don't know. I feel like there's more underneath, but we just didn't get to all of it. But hey.
Yeah, that's cool.
Got the guide to Pride flags here on episode 230, No Brains, No Headache. You mentioned Canada earlier when we were talking about the flags.
There was something in the news that the old Donnie Trump came out with that saying like something along the lines of Canada being the 51st state.
I feel like people out there may be a bit offended that we went from a guide to Pride flags to mentioning Donald Trump's name within a minute of it.
I mean, we got
to space them out a little bit.
We don't vet these things. We throw shit on a list, and that's what we're talking about.
This is true.
We could have organized this better, but that's just not what the show's about.
What did Donald say?
It was something along the lines of like he was kind of like implying making Canada the 51st state, which it would never happen. First off, mainly because the French people up there they don't even want to be part of Canada.
Isn't it maybe because it's a completely different country and people don't just bend the knee when you're like, hey, you want to be your 51st state?
Hypothetically, if this happens, what do you think the good things would be and what do you think the bad things would be? I think our hockey team would be fucking unstoppable.
Yes, that in the Olympics and
I think
World
hunting and fishing would take a real step forward.
Yes, the United States of America, I mean, not that much different from Canada when you look at it. So there is a lot of good hunting and fishing here in the United States. But yes, the hunting. However, I think Canada, I don't want to quote it here, but they have a little bit different set of hunting rules. They don't necessarily believe in the population management the way Americans do. So I think it is a lot more difficult. And that's a lot less tags to fill in the hunting community. I don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure there is a large debate between the hunting community in Canada and the hurt a fly community.
I mean, Canada would be the biggest state by land area and by population.
Yes.
Canada only has 2 million more people than California.
What is California's current population, would you say?
A little over 38 million.
Okay, so Canada as a whole is sporting about 40 mil.
Yeah, a little over 40.
I would say that's good. The currency would be interesting of like...
loonies and toonies.
Well, if you're in this very hypothetical, never ever going to happen situation, that's pretty much the whole show here. Welcome to NBNH. What can you do? No brains, no headache. You know, that's on you for listening to a show called No Brains,
What if
No
we
Headache.
just traded California to Mexico and then...
Yeah, we should do some trades.
Yeah, I wish that land trading was like a legitimate thing between states too.
Yes.
Like we don't want Williston. We'll keep the mineral rights. Montana, it's all yours.
Yeah, it does sound like an accounting nightmare.
The health insurance
an illegal
thing?
nightmare. So yeah, it's funny we're talking about health insurance. Now we're discussing Canada being the 51st state. I don't think the Canadians are... I don't think they're going to like the way the healthcare works around these parts.
A lot of Canadians come down here anyways, though. Then they'll just pay.
I don't know this. And
they'll just pay for it because they don't want to wait 2 years. It's like your legs got blown off. It's like, we'll fit you in 2028.
I mean, you better mark your spot, I guess. Just like your old roommate puking in the street every other weekend.
Maybe that's what he was doing. He's just a dog marking his territory.
Like I said, proud of his work. But hockey team would be great. What are we doing with the Canadian Football League? Are we just turning that into like a minor league system for the NFL?
I hate to say this about Canadian football because we did have the MVP of the Canadian Football League on this show before.
Yes.
But it's not a fun product to watch. There's 3 downs. You can score on punts.
The field is large.
The field is like twice the square footage of a normal NFL field. The goalposts are in the front of the end zone. end zones are 20 yards long.
Do you think that we're throwing like the what is it, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and the Toronto Argonauts? Do you think we're considering them for the college football playoff? Just like throwing them in there with that, just like as a wild card.
I would just see
the 12 seed is always reserved for the CFL champion, which is the Toronto Argonauts this year.
Every Canadian will say that American football is a better product, but Canada just refuses to change their rules.
Yeah, because they're stubborn. And I think the CFL does, it's a kind of a different time of the year. Obviously, like we said, a lot of different rules and regulations going on. But I think that's good for the sport of football as a whole. I think it's good to have that kind of product. I know Canadians do enjoy the CFL. There's a lot of diehard fans out there who enjoy it. The Grey Cup is kind of a pretty cool tradition. It's their Super Bowl, essentially. So I think it's good for football to have, you have the NFL. It's the best of the best, cream of the crop. It's the highest you can go in that industry, in that sport. But it's also cool to have, just as North America, it's cool to have our college, which I would also argue is better than the CFL, but it's cool to kind of have, because if you made the CFL rules the same exact or very similar to, NFL or college rules, to me, that's just not much variation. You're changing a lot of tradition and things that have been going on for a long time. So I think it's good to have just a little bit different. It's kind of like bars and restaurants in your town that you're currently in. It's good to have a sports bar and a high class dining, fine dining area, the dive bar. It's good to have an assortment. If they're all the same, man, you're not going to like it.
Yeah, but it needs to be either more different than, because it's so similar, but the rules just don't. The way they have the rules is set up for it to be less entertaining.
But that's Canada for you, man. It's a pretty boring country if you think about it. They don't know if they're French. They don't know if what's going on. Are they Eskimos? We don't know. They don't know.
So the parallel that goes like Montana and North Dakota, that line, if you kept it just going on that trajectory and even it up with Maine, 90% of Canada's population.
Is that like Toronto and Montreal?
Yep.
Is Quebec over there?
Quebec City's in there.
Okay. It doesn't matter that
Ottawa.
much. Okay. And then you got Vancouver on the other side. Yeah. I was thinking about this, talking about vacation destinations with somebody, and I was just referring to places within the United States, and they were talking about international travel, and I was like, well, at least here in America, right now in North Dakota, we are in the frozen tundra. That's just how it is. That's how it works. We're practically in Canada. Let's face facts. Yep. Listen to us talk, for fuck's sakes. Excuse my French. God damn it. Here we go again. Fuck.
Swear jar.
Swear jar. But at least in the United States, we can go to South Florida and get a bit of a tropical vibe. We even have Hawaii. You can go to California, Arizona. You want mountains? We got the Rocky Mountain Range, Appalachian. You want lakes, bodies of water? We got the Great Lakes. We got all sorts of lakes. Rivers, we got that too. We got a little bit of everything, a little bit of all the climates. Canada, boy, where do you vacation in Canada?
Cold and colder. Actually,
look at it, man. Canada, the whole goddamn populated country is getting some snow. They're getting below frigid temperatures every goddamn year. That's not the case in Miami. That's not the case in Louisiana.
I will say, if Canada became the 51st state, we would monopolize the dog.
What is that? Wait, what?
Dog racing. What? Dog sledding.
Monopolize dog racing?
Dog sledding.
Dog sledding.
Yeah.
We commercialize. Is that maybe the word you're looking for?
No other country could compete.
Maybe the Russians, Siberians, perhaps?
Could be. But
the Antarcticans? Is there any? Does Antarctica have their own people at all?
No, there's.
So you're telling me they're probably like, if you're pregnant and headed to Antarctica, they're like, yeah, no, we
Antarctica, like, no one claims it as it's like a country. No one claims
but
it.
Aliens do.
Yeah. It's the ice wall.
It is the ice wall on the edge of the flat Earth.
I learned about that every time I think of flat Earth, I just think of Pirates of the Caribbean.
I think of Game of Thrones, the ice wall.
Yeah.
And then you got Homeboy with the javelin. Excuse me. My bad. That's my bad. Couldn't help myself. Okay, I'm over here. Yeah, I'm chopping it up with my buddy old pal Matt over here. We're having a good time. Episode 230. No brains, no headache. Is Canada going to be the 51st state? No. And honestly, if I had a vote on it, I would say I'm good. That's fine. I would prefer Canada to stay Canada. Yeah, the hockey team would be unreal. Baseball team, there's an improvement there. Basketball, we're going to say the same.
No,
Soccer.
Canada has like some of the best basketball players now.
You don't even know that.
Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
Okay, that's one.
Andrew,
How does he
Wiggins?
match up against
Joel Embiid?
Jason Tatum? How does he match up against Kevin Durant? You know, Joel Embiid
He's definitely American.
is Italy, I believe.
No,
Greece,
Cameroon, but now he plays for Team USA. That's what I don't get. People can just change countries. It's like my great-great-grandmam.
Grandpappy 19-2. Matt. Okay, we have a certain decorum around here. Do we have any more on Canada being the 51st state? All right. I'm not going to lie. This next segment I did kind of half-ass. I got a little busier than I expected, so I didn't really finish it out. However, Christmas season, holiday season's upon us. I've been crushing Christmas movies every day. I'm in the Christmas spirit right now. I was making some gifts earlier, doing a little wrapping, getting things ready. I'm listening to all the tunes, okay? I'm getting my full fix because come 26th, it's over. Depression sets in pretty quickly. So I wanted to do an analytical breakdown of the Christmas hit Home Alone. Now, we're just talking about Home Alone 1. Yes, I would probably agree with you out there if you're in the camp that says, hey, Home Alone 2 Lost in New York City's better. I would agree with you there.
I would say they're equal.
They're very equal. I'm going to give the edge to New York City. He's a little older, we got a whole new apartment in New York City that's just getting remodeled. So
I'm just going to say it. Kevin McAllister's parents were bad parents.
Oh, we're going to get into it, and I just have random clips here. Yeah. We can keep going, Matt. Yeah. Feel free to jump in. First scene of the movie, the house is a goddamn zoo, okay? And I'd never seen so many people walk back and forth so much. A lot of people are forgetting what they left upstairs because they're up and down those stairs. But nobody was curious about the cop being at their home. I mean, albeit it was a fake cop who ended up being a criminal. But nobody seemed to... I mean, if there's a cop at your house, it kind of gets your attention, no?
Yeah.
So the McAllister family apparently is a bunch of, veteran criminals, seasoned. Buzz was flushing something down the toilet. Once he saw that cop. He's like, he was like coming around the corner. He's like, ugh.
No, Buzz is fat enough that he ate it. And he has just this 8 ball of blow in his stomach floating around.
Yeah, probably. Hopefully that'll, just like his spider eating a load of mice guts, Buzz should be good on the coke for about a month. They sleep in, obviously. They have a ride, some transportation lined up to head to the airport. Running late. The kid across the street comes walking over, and I just have to say that the kid across the street is a nice guy.
What's his name? Isn't it a nerdy name like Winston or something?
I think it's Murph something. Let's look it up. I don't know why I didn't have this ready to go. Home Alone, the 1990 film. Let's check out the cast. We're going to have to do a deep dive on this one. Let's see here. It's going to be hard to tell exactly who. I don't know what kind of
it turns out that
Is that Mitch Murphy?
Yep.
I want to say it's Mitch Murphy.
Dude, that guy's really ugly.
Yeah, they should have put his child star picture up there. But yeah, they have...
Rob Schneider's in it?
In one?
It
says on the bottom, you're correct, I'm not denying, but they don't have a name for him, so maybe he just... I don't know. Maybe he was an extra, and they give him the credit since he's Rob Schneider. But Mitch Murphy from across the street... Really nice guy, and this kid is ahead of his time because he's asking about what the van's gas mileage is. I mean, It's a prodigy.
He knew that in 18 short years we were going to have a gas crisis.
There you go. Uncle Frank, I mean, everybody calls him a movie villain. We all know this. This isn't obvious. I mean, just by, looking at him, kind of watching him, hearing him, the way he treats people, he's an asshole. But what I found out is, he's a piece of shit simply because he's from Ohio.
Yep.
At one point when she's on the phone, she says, "Oh, my brother-in-law drove in from Ohio today." He's such a piece of shit that he has to piggyback off of the McAllisters. Apparently, they don't have an airport in Ohio. Apparently, they don't have Cleveland, Cincinnati, major airports. Apparently, they don't have that, so they have to drive to Chicago.
That's a far drive, because that's clear across Indiana.
Yeah, okay. Like you said, Kevin McAllister had bad parents. I'm in the thought process that, Kevin's dad didn't actually love him.
I think they have too many kids that he was just like, you know what?
He was ignored and his dad's patience was running thin.
I'm just going to pick a few that I like. And
yeah, so there's a few issues waiting for Kevin down the road.
Yeah.
Which is always tough. To me, basements are still scary to a certain degree. Dark basement, boy. I'm jogging up those steps. Yeah. Don't want the boogeyman to get me from behind.
I used to think the Grinch lived in my basement.
Yes, that is a scary thought. So I would say basements are still scary. However, the furnace in Home Alone, it seems to be a large liability. Like if a kid got caught in there, we're talking about broken arm, perhaps a limb ripped off. And I just have never seen, a furnace like that.
If there was like a modern day Home Alone that they brought back the cast, they would be in a new house because their old house exploded from that furnace.
For sure. And I would hate to be, in the HVAC industry watching this movie, because you see this furnace and there's just vents just going all over the place. And I mean, I'm sure the movie made that on purpose to make it look a little more gnarly. But man, that ventilation system, that we could have taken some different routes. There's a reason it's a little chilly. There's a draft upstairs. They throw the poor kid in the attic. It looked like there was no insulation up there whatsoever. This is Chicago in December.
I will say the attic looked like a pretty sweet bedroom.
It did, but there's piss stains all over the bed thanks to Fuller. So you got to watch out for that. I'm almost out of them here, Matt, so feel free to jump in. The one thing I noticed is, they get there and they're trying to call the police. The cops didn't take this Amber Alert very seriously at all. Homeboy is shoving donuts in his face. Homegirl is using taxpayer money to wrap gifts on the job. Okay, there's a reason Chicago is the way it is, and it's because you're allowing your police force to just shove donuts in their face and wrap personal gifts back in the 90s. It's gotten to where it is today because of those actions alone.
Yeah, I mean, that's the weirdest part about it is that they left Kevin at home and they couldn't find a single person that they knew in the Chicago area to go check on him.
At that point, don't you think you'd maybe, if you're that desperate, pick up a phone book and start just looking up addresses, like maybe near your place, and just be like, hey, I'm a random person, never met you before. However, the police force is incompetent. Here's my situation. Will you go check on my child?
I was just going to say...
Like, do these kids not have any friends at school? Are they homeschooled? Do they not have any friends?
Do they go... In the first one, do they go to Paris?
Correct. They fly to Paris. They're in Paris. He's back in Chi-Town. In Home Alone 2, they're down in Miami. He goes to New York. Yeah. And it all starts and I don't want to get too into Home Alone 2 because we're only focusing on one here, but from the get-go, there's just foreshadowing. He talks about how there's no trees down in Miami, and his mom, that bitch, is like, "Well, decorate a palm tree." And it's like, that's not the same. Yeah. That's not the same at all. They get to Miami, and it's just downpouring. Anyway, when Kevin starts running away from the robbers, Marv, and is it Harry?
Yeah, Harry and Marv.
Harry and Marv, they have that little interaction. He finds out that they're kind of following him. He takes off around the church, right? They come around, they can't see him. Kevin is hiding in the nativity scene. What I want to know is, where did he get the costume and props from on such short notice?
I want to know what has to happen and what has to line up for two criminals in Chicago that got arrested to find the same kid in New York.
I mean, they need to buy a lottery ticket. 'Cause the chances of that happening, man.
I mean, you could probably...
It's better than the Chicago White Sox winning the AL Central next year.
That's true. They're so bad.
I believe I don't know if it was a joke or a parody, but I thought I saw it was plus 50,000.
They'll give you whatever odds you want. It's just like...
here's the $5 for my bet.
Yeah. That's like the lottery's just a tax on stupid people. The people that bet on the White Sox to win the World Series is just a tax on stupid people.
That as well. That was just to win the division, Matt. The World Series, shit. You bet $1, you're going to be...
What are the odds? You can pick whatever you want.
But he hides in the nativity scene. I don't know, vandalism much. He just kind of throws it down, doesn't redo it at all. Trespassing, vandalism.
Yeah, it's... I do like the YouTube videos out there where they break down Harry and Marv's injuries they would have gotten.
Yeah, I didn't end up watching those. Just I'm raw dogging this as we go.
But I was thinking about if this legitimately happened and there's two burglars, Kevin's dead within 15 minutes, right?
I'm sorry, can you re-say that one more time?
So
please?
if Home Alone happened right now,
okay,
Kevin's dead immediately, right?
If Home Alone happened right now, there would be a guardian or somebody there immediately because he's on his iPad.
Yeah.
He's playing fork knife with his buddies.
But if Home Alone, let's say it's back in that time and it happens, but it's realistic.
Well, I know that the power went out and the phones were down because that kind of caused the electricity to go out. Therefore, the alarm clocks didn't go off. That's why they're late. I think this bastard could have even written a handwritten letter that morning that he comes downstairs. He's got bedhead. He's hungover probably. He doesn't know where he's at. And he's like, wow. He picks up the phone. Oh, lines are dead. I bet if he writes a letter that morning, puts it in the outgoing mail, I don't know who this is to anybody. By the end of the movie, they're going to get it. I think it's like a 2 or 3 day span, really, when it comes down to it.
Well, same city. I mean, but then I was also thinking about what were they trying to steal? Because outside of jewelry, nothing back then would be easy or worth stealing.
Yeah, they're essentially just taking all the gold-plated decorations people had. It's a pretty rich neighborhood, so I mean, there's some value there. Maybe just melt it down. I don't know. But then they're just stealing Christmas gifts. It's like remote control cars and stuff like that. So, yeah, no, that's a good question.
But it's like jewelry and silverware.
Yeah, not once do they go for the cash. And number two, it's like, okay, you're actually going for a cash register and a chest full of cash. Makes sense.
Yeah, I don't understand burglary back then because no one had anything of value.
Well, I mean, this goes right into what you brought up earlier. Crime is impossible nowadays. Yep. And, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Home Alone, their writers, the directors, everybody on staff ought to be thankful that 9/11 didn't happen till after. 9/11 happens before this whole plot down the toilet.
What if
There's no way that they're getting through airport security like that.
What if there was an alternate universe where Home Alone happens, but his family is on one of the planes that hit one of the towers, and then Kevin's just home alone?
Yeah, he's like, thank God I slept in the attic to save my life.
Home Alone ... forever.
Yeah, never forget. Kevin McAllister won't. I do love the South Bend shovel slayer when Kevin is looking for the ADA toothbrush scene. Homeboy has a bloody hand, very unsanitary, not any hygiene whatsoever, and he comes up and just right on the counter and then stares at the kid, and then later in the movie he's like, I don't know why you didn't approach me, and it's like, well, you're bleeding, you have an open wound that you wrapped up with your handkerchief that you blow your nose in, you're known as a murderer. Okay, like I don't know if you knew that, but these kids assume you're a murderer. Do you think that they were very warm to you when you caught them looking at you in the window and they quickly hid with the blinds as you're salting the sidewalk? Hey man, why don't you shovel earlier in the day? That's a question for you.
That guy reminds me of my favorite homeless man in Bismarck. We call him Father Andy because he dresses like a priest, but he doesn't have any legs, and his favorite hobby is screaming at mannequins.
Hey, through Christ, everything is possible. So,
and then his legs are cut off so high that he can like pivot in his chair.
What's his name?
Father Andy.
Is he related to Lieutenant Dan?
It's very similar. It's like if Lieutenant Dan pretended to be a priest and lived in North Dakota and was homeless.
That could be an alternate universe, a subplot of Forrest Gump. But yeah, the South Bend Shovel Slayer, I never really understood why he thought that Kevin should just buddy up to him. And that actually does play into the plot because all Kevin had to do was go over to the South Bend Shovel Slayer's house. But then, he thought he was going to get murdered with an axe and turned into sidewalk salt. So you can understand there.
Yep.
Do you have any other beef with Home Alone that you can think of off the top of your head?
I will say that I'm a big time hater of Christmas movies. Home Alone and Home Alone 2 are probably my two favorite.
Hungry?
You brought up sweet chili wings, and I'm literally, my mouth is watering.
All right, well, then let's wrap up our analytical breakdown of Home Alone. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Once again, happy holidays, Merry Christmas to you. Hope you get out there to watch some Christmas movies with your family. Snuggle up with maybe a little hot chocolate, maybe a little extracurricular in there. Matt, I want to know from you, what is the best excuse? Diarrhea.
Yeah, honestly, that was at the very top. Diarrhea, car troubles. I fell asleep.
I'm against the car trouble because in the past at various jobs, and maybe you even experience it too in your current role, but people, like say you have the work group message, just your way to get the schedule out there and communicate. Sandwich in here? Oh, I thought I felt something on my leg. I was like,
that was my own hand.
That was my dong. Where was I?
Oh, diarrhea.
Oh, yeah. You have the work group message. So that the car trouble, people text literally like 8 hours, 10 hours before they even have to be at work. Maybe even more, like, hey, I have car trouble, won't be able to make it. It's like, okay, well, get your car to the shop.
Yeah.
And then if you need a ride, let me know.
Yeah.
And as, if in the times I've been a boss and I've heard excuses, I've always offered a solution that doesn't get them out of work.
Yep.
Oh, I have car troubles. All right. Will you send me your address? I'll come pick you up.
Yeah.
I'll drop you off. I'll even give you a ride home at the end of the night. The hour of commuting is still better than me covering your 8-hour shift or whatever it may be.
I will say that diarrhea is the best excuse because no one follows up about it.
And I mean, you could probably loop in like the flu, which diarrhea is a symptom, of. So it's like, because when you have the flu, I would even put flu above COVID, just to be honest with you. When somebody has the flu, it's like, stay the fuck away from me. Even the cold. Yeah. I'd put the cold above. It'd be a flu, cold, COVID as far as, very contagious sicknesses that can get out there. You got the flu, you probably smell bad. You probably look like shit. You are cranky. You have no energy. Your body, I mean, if you actually do, so that's why it is a good excuse if you pull it off. You got diarrhea, which is like our best excuse so far. And so, yeah, you throw a sickness out there. I mean, you can go extravagant with the other ones, death in the family. I always loved when I worked jobs in college or whatever throughout the years, where literally if you had a death in the family, if you're not providing an obituary that like lists you like as the next of kin, the remaining kin that survived, you're getting written up. Like, that's not working.
At that point, you got to just be like, it was a family friend, and then find someone that like died in your hometown or something like that. You got to go deep. I did that one time.
But we also maybe need to peel back a layer here, go a little deeper, because I think what you and I are referring to right now is just good excuses to get out of work.
Yeah.
What are say you're on like a rec softball team or a soccer team or some sort of rec team you don't want to go. What's the best excuse there? The team's counting on you.
I will loop in. I'll do the opposite then. I'll tell the people that I have to work to get out of doing stuff like that.
Yeah, I would say other things work, probably numero uno, if you're a parent.
I'm also really bad about like coming up with excuses. Like when I was on a basketball team a couple of years ago, and they'd be like, I don't have any responsibilities. Like I don't have kids or anything. So like
got Sandwich. Yeah. Sandwich, Ferguson, Missouri, Cleary.
Yeah, well, my diabetic cat really needs me. It's like, no, he doesn't. He'd prefer if I wasn't here, actually.
Yeah, I did notice that.
He just kind of like hangs out. He's a turtle that you give a shot to twice a day.
There you go. Where were we?
Diarrhea.
Well, and I think that the excuse is you really got to start stacking them up somehow.
Yeah. I mean, car troubles, sick, bad. The roads are bad. I've gotten that one before.
I don't like it.
Which is even worse because it's like it's like not really unsafe for you to drive. You're just a pussy.
Well, I mean, what I've learned in my career is just like, okay, if there's a reason there's going to be a delay, for me getting my work done, or if for whatever reason, I've learned it's best just to keep it short and sweet. Because if you do really have the trust of somebody, they're not going to ask questions. You don't need to be like, oh, well, last night I had a bad pizza and I woke up at 3:30 a.m. and I was nauseous, and then at 6 this morning, piss out of my ass, and it's just like,
if your excuse is longer than 5 or 6 words, you're lying.
And that's what I'm saying. Yep. Is it's best just to be like, or I don't even like address sometimes if it's like, hey, you need to get this done, and I'm just either not feeling it or I actually am ill or something's prohibiting me from getting it done. It's just like, okay, I'll get it done when I can.
So,
and then that's all you have to say.
I mean, this was like one of the prime examples where it's like, I'm just not going to follow up to that. So I was at open mic night, like it's probably a month ago or so, and I was like texting people to come, and I was just like fire selling everyone in my phone. And I texted this guy who usually comes, and I was like, coming to open mic tonight, ? And all he said was, can't stop shitting. And I just put my phone down, and I'm like, all right.
With arms wide open. Yeah, I mean, that's always a good one. I think you bring some sort of BM into it. That's always a good indicator. But I will say this. I think that the best excuse is no excuse. And I'm not trying to be the hard head, try hard here, who's like, you don't need excuses. Excuses are like assholes. Everybody's got one. And they stink. I'm in the camp of, and Matt, maybe you can get on board with me here if we're talking about like a skipping work situation or just any sort of obligation you have. No excuse, meaning just don't even say it. Like the whole, I didn't even show up to work today. Nobody noticed. What do you think about that? Of just kind of blending in, and no attention is good attention, or I don't know how to explain that, but no news is good news. I guess you could say.
No news is good news
until you get canned.
Yeah, until you just don't show up. Then if you no news is good news.
But you, like I'm saying, you can't get too carried away. So one day you want to skip work or whatever. I want to skip work. Instead of really notifying anyone, you just kind of don't.
Ooh,
you know what I mean?
Another good excuse is taking a mental health day.
Ooh, that one's huge. Also very important.
Yeah.
And I think even if you are using, I'm taking a mental health day as an excuse, that sounds like a legit excuse to take a mental health day.
So I'll just come out and say this. If I ever tell you that I'm taking a mental health day, I'm hungover.
Oh, I thought you were going to say I'll be at the bar.
Yeah. I hungover, probably going to the bar.
Yeah, just
speaking of bars, we're gonna get sweet chili wings after this.
Yeah, well, we're talking about best excuses. I have one more thing, and then we.
You know what else is a really good excuse? I'm going to get sweet chili wings.
Yeah.
So
it's sorry I can't come to work today. I'm going to get sweet chili wings right now. No, at about noon for lunch. You guys want to meet me there? That could be a good way of just glossing over the fact that you're just blatantly skipping work, but offering some sort of reward or incentive, like, oh, I'm not coming to work today, but you guys want to come to lunch? I'll buy. And then that completely distracts them. And they're like, well, free lunch. You know?
Yeah, I did. But
then over lunch, you can just kind of go over like the 10 minutes it takes to go through all the bullshit that you sit there for 8 hours for.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say there was one other. This isn't really an excuse. It's just say I don't want to. Like, that doesn't sound fun.
Yeah, I think people do have a difficult time saying.
I just
no.
I'll just refuse. If you ask me twice, I'll do it. It's like
it's hard to say no sometimes.
You're thinking about doing heroin. It's like, no. Are you sure? All right, I'm in.
All right, you talked me into it. What is the best excuse? I think the best excuse is whichever one that works.
Yeah.
All right. But I wouldn't stack them up too much. If you have a conscience, a soul, a heart, using too many excuses to get out of things, that's not good. Get out of your comfort zone. Get out there. Do it. This life is meant to be lived, so do it. Either a frown on your face or a smile, just do it. It's going to feel better. All right, we've got to wrap up the show here. And we are recording just a little bit ahead of time. So I do want to preface this next little chit-chat about that, just because depending on when you're listening to this, it may not make sense. However, huge Vikings fan over here. I'm headed to a game, Monday night game, Bears-Vikings by the time this is out.
Well, I suggested that we just record while Jordan was at the game. He said no.
Probably not. The sound isn't great, and I don't think you get good service in like large stadiums. Last time I checked.
Just telling people beside you, do you mind getting off the Wi-Fi? I'm trying to record now.
Well, if you follow us on Instagram at nobrains_noheadache, I'll probably definitely be posting on the story there. Feel free to follow me, Jordan Weichel, Facebook, Jordan Von Weichel, Instagram. But the Vikings, they're currently at the time of this recording sitting at 11-2. Okay, they play Bears on Monday night. By the time this comes out, this will already be, the results will be in. However, the Vikings, it's such a good record, they're chasing the Detroit Lions, right? The Lions only have one loss. We're trying to figure out all these scenarios, all these different ways. Obviously, the best case scenario is just them winning out.
Yeah, that'll do it.
At Seahawks, Packers at home, at Lions. Those are 3 games, Matt. They're all playoff caliber. Matter of fact, all 3 of those teams have a pretty dang good chance of getting into the playoffs. So playoff football really starts early for the Vikes. And then if you look at it, earlier this season, the Vikes had 3 road games, and it's very rare to have that. And it's the first time in franchise history where they swept the road series. Granted, it was Jacksonville, Tennessee, Chicago.
You were telling me like that was the first time either like the Vikings or any team started out the year with 3 road games or something like that? Or like it hasn't happened since like 1980.
No, it was the first time in Vikings history that they have swept and won all 3 road games. It's only happened about 10 times in franchise history because, with the schedule makers and the caliber of the NFL, it's best to if you want the best quality football, it's probably not best to put a team on the road 3 weeks in a row, especially when they're flying to Jacksonville, Nashville. Chicago's right there, but still. It wears on a person. So if you want the best product on the field, it's ideal to not do that. Sometimes that's how it works out. So they did that against not very good teams. They're still coming into form. That's great. But if you look at it for the Vikings, they play at the Lions on the last week of the season, week 18. I believe it's might be your birthday, actually, January 5th. Okay? So there's one road game. If the Vikings get in as a wild card and there aren't any upsets, that means they have to go on the road for the wild card round. They have to go if they keep winning, they have to go on the road for the divisional round. They have to go on the road for the conference championship. More than likely at Detroit, at Philly. That's how it's kind of shaping out right now. So you're telling me that the Vikings could barely skate by 3 road games against sub 500 teams, and you want them to go on 4 consecutive weeks on the road and beat these teams? The whole point of this is Skull Vikes, they need to surpass the Detroit Lions. I don't know how the tiebreaker works, where if the Lions win out, except that last game, and the Vikings win out, they're both going to be 15-2. I have no idea how the tiebreaker pans out because they'll be so even.
That is nuts to have. You could legitimately have 2 teams in the same division be 15-2.
And I don't know how the tiebreaker works. I wish I did. I haven't really gotten that far ahead because the Vikes, they have to take care of some other things first, 1 week at a time, 1 day at a time.
You know what happens when the Carolina Panthers have 15 wins? The owner
they go to the Super Bowl and lose.
What's your problem? I was going to say the owner comes in and says, we had a good 4 years.
Time to trade, fire sell everybody.
Starting with me.
Was McCaffrey on that squad or no? Not quite yet.
No, I think it was Jonathan Stewart.
Okay, that makes sense. But that's all I'm saying. That's the point I wanted to make. I wanted to get that out there into the the podcast verse because it's been on my mind a lot. It's going to be crazy to see how the rest of the season shakes out. We're not going to be back until playoff time essentially. So I wanted to get that out there. That's my take on kind of the rest of the Vikings season. And I tell you what, man, it's going to be shitty as whether you're a Lions fan or a Vikings fan. Whoever gets that wild card, it's going to be tough because if you're the 5 seed, the only way you are hosting a home game is if that 6 and 7 team also start to upset people.
On the road again.
So I'm just saying, if you're at Detroit, let's just say you're at the AFC South. If they get a wild card, you're at Detroit the last weekend. You're the 5 seed. You're at the AFC South winner. Then you're probably at Philly. Then you're probably at Philly, and then you're probably at the Detroit again. Man, that is a tough road. So it is very important that the Vikings get into the 1 or 2 seed, and they definitely have the power to do it. This is one of those years where you see the records of these good teams, and then you have teams like the Buccaneers and the Falcons and the Cardinals and the Seahawks that are they don't have that quite record, but they still have that higher seed. Might be something for the NFL to look at.
Yeah, it's tough. If I do the Gruden face long enough, my contact falls out.
Yeah, it looks like you've been crying for quite some time now.
Dude, are you crying?
I am not. But that's our show. That's it for 2024. I just want to say thank you from No Brains, No Headache, Matt and myself for listening so far this year. And I'm really excited for 2025. We have a lot of exciting things coming up, starting with our show schedule. Friday, January 3rd, Matt and myself, a couple other comedians, will be up in Underwood, North Dakota at the Black Nugget Bar. It's their New Year's party. Feel free to come by if you're in the area, you want to check out a show. A few weeks after that, it's our biggest show yet. Saturday, January 25th, comedy night at Bell Mayhews Auditorium. We got Tommy Brennan. He's been on the show before. We got Aiden McCluskey. He's been on the show before. We got Brandon Loftus. He's been on the show before. And Matt and I running the backstage, which is just a scary thought. However, as you're getting closer to Christmas time, and if you're still looking for something to get that person you don't know what to shop for, you want something fun and exciting, go check out our link in our bio because tickets for that are available, and you can choose your spot and still get a really good price on those tickets before they inevitably rise in price. So, Saturday, January 25th, Matt and I would greatly appreciate it if you came out to the Bell Mayhews, or the Mahoos as we're calling it, for the show. Matt, looks like you got to say something.
Time Magazine came out and said that 2024 is the year you don't give presents, you give experiences. And if you don't like your family a lot, spend a lot of money on them, you go to the Bismarck Event Center page, go to the Bell Mahoos, go to events, scroll down to January 25th, and you spend $20 on a ticket.
And it could work both ways. It could be a really cool gift, or like Matt said, if you don't like somebody, you could just send them to our comedy show. And if you know they're going to hate it, send them anyway. Bring them to us. We'll take care of them. We'll set them straight.
I'm in a fantasy football league where if you take last place, you have to go to the comedy show.
That's brutal. That is absolutely brutal. And then Saturday, February 22nd, will be at the Poppy Creative in Mandan. More details coming out on that. But that's our year. That's our show. Once again, thank you so much for listening. I hope everybody has a great holiday season. A lot of college football coming up, a lot of gifts, a lot of drinks, a lot of good food. So enjoy it. Be safe. Be grateful. Take care of yourselves, okay? Couldn't be a time of the year you get lost in the sauce. Take care of yourself. I want to see you all come 2025. We got a lot of tricks up our sleeve, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is a wrap for episode 230 here in 2024. Matt, we did it once again. Good job. Appreciate you as well being my co-host, and I wish you and yours happy holidays.
My hand was pretty sweaty.
Wish you a happy birthday as well. The next time you see and hear from us, we're going to be 31, and I'm going to be peed on for my golden birthday. Boy, am I excited. Next up, episode 231. You all take care.
You're watching Channel 4 News with 5-time Emmy Award-winning anchor Ron Burgundy and Tits McGee.
Good evening, San Diego. I'm Veronica Corningstone. Tits McGee is on vacation.
And I'm Ron